Hello, this is Chapter 11 lecture video, and this is the only part to this lecture video. It will be a very short lecture video also, probably the shortest one we have for you. Chapter 11 is more of, I've designed this to be more of a self-exploration chapter. So it's on ethnicity, culture, and the socioeconomic determinants of addiction. So I'm only going to mention a few things to you, and then if you've taken a look at your written assignment or on the discussion board assignment, there are some things that you're going to explore on your own. So therefore, I'm not really going to incorporate that into the lecture because you're going to kind of do some exploring on your own so you can become aware of what your own cultural bias are, or maybe you don't have any, and exploring where you are as a person in regards to ethnicity, class, and culture. So hopefully you will get something out of this chapter from exploring this a little bit and listening to a few things that I'm going to point out on this video. So there are three factors that you're going to consider when you're talking about this chapter as well as relating it to addiction. We have ethnicity or race, if you believe in race, class, and culture. Class can impact addiction because how you use, what you use, and the consequences of use are influenced by your geographic location and access to your drugs and alcohol and what you have access to and how available they are or how potent they are. So class affects those different things. If you're in a poorer neighborhood, you might be more likely to use crack versus cocaine. Or if you're in an upper class neighborhood, maybe crack is frowned upon, but you use alcohol or heroin. So your class and geographic location can impact what you're using and how you're using it. Also in regards to, class a little bit was that your textbook talked about Monique, the case study with Monique, and we could ask ourselves, were the cards stacked against Monique? I mean, she was a single mom from Chicago, poor neighborhood, had a 2-year-old daughter, history of sexual abuse. She was homeless, sometimes used shelter care. But she fed her daughter, she was isolated, she was using daily, she hooked to get her drugs, and then someone called the Child Protective Services on her from the shelter. So we have Monique. That's a prime example of what some people face in day-to-day life when we talk about class. There are some components to a powerful approach to addiction. No wrong door. We've talked about that, whether it be substance abuse or mental health, but no wrong door to getting treatment. You're getting treatment. That's the main part. Matching an addict to the needs of services. So housing, employment, counseling, education. Accessibility. Is there childcare available? Will you provide bus tickets? Making sure there's no waiting lists. Choice. Having a case manager to help a person decide. Flexibility. It's their plan, whatever they choose to do. Responsiveness. If their need is one step at a time, then that's the way that it's going to be as you move through treatment. And collaboration among different organizations and services. We have to ask ourselves, what makes recovery more difficult for poor people? We have a lack of money, lack of health insurance, lack of skills, maybe language skills to negotiate their treatment. Legal status can sometimes be a role. Prior experiences in the system, cultural beliefs and how they sync with or conflict with treatment programs, religious beliefs, same thing as mentioned about cultural beliefs, and fear or shame of losing their face in the community if they have a face in the community. Talking about race is a social construct. It is not a biological category, and the more blended we get, the less meaningful that it is. Multiracial youth are the fastest growing youth group in the country, so we're kind of taking away it's getting more blended, as we had just described in the previous sentence. However, we are stuck with race. There's no other good way to make distinctions, but there are greater differences within the groups between them. We have ethnicity. Ethnicity has common historical experiences, whether it be European, African, Filipino, for example, or regions within certain areas. That is your ethnicity that you come from or your background. And last but not least, we have culture, which is shared values, behaviors, and beliefs. So it could be language, food, recreation, jokes, disabilities, sexual orientation, income level, religion, and so on and so on. Another thing that we want to keep in mind when we talk about, ethnicity, culture, race, any of those things, is immigration as another factor. First-generation youth may use drugs as a way to acculturate or be viewed as belonging when they come over into the country. How can you learn to be culturally competent? There are a few tips that I could give you. Know yourself, know your own culture, and know your own biases. Know your stereotypes and know your values. Be willing to confess cultural blunders. Be honest and be open and say, I don't think I work well with this population. Experience, learn, expose yourself, read different things, attend one of your NA groups or your AA groups. Put yourself out there. Put yourself out of your comfort zone. And if you don't know something, ask. That is the most powerful tool that you could ever do, is ask someone. So, again, I told you this lecture video is going to be very, very short because the rest of the chapter, you are going to kind of work on the cultural differences and complete that written assignment. Also take special note that the discussion board question also goes right along with the written assignment. So once you complete the written assignment, you can go ahead and do your discussion board assignment. So go ahead and work on those two things now and stay tuned. We're almost there. Thank you.